Looks like everybody is settling back in, so I will go ahead and introduce our next panel. We have our very own Eric Fritsche, Stewart Carroll, and Mike Boren to talk Innovations Lab. So come on out, guys.
Yeah!
Now where to sit?
Hey everybody, thanks for sticking around. We'll try to make this a little fun. I know we're leading up towards happy hour. Don't want to keep anybody away from that any longer than we need to. To start off, my name is Eric Fritsche. I'm the head of the Innovations Lab here at Beck Technology. And we're going to be talking a little bit about it. We get on calls with some of y'all and like, hey, what is the Innovations Lab? What is it that you do? What is your role there? And so rather than me just sitting up here prattling on about the thing that I do day in and day out, I figured we'd bring these two guys up here and sort of have a little Q&A about it, let them give their perspective on what Innovations Lab is, what its value is, what some of the stuff that we do here. So before we get started, Stewart obviously introduced himself this morning, so he is still the same Stewart, but I'll let Mike at the end introduce himself before we get started.
So my name is Mike Boren. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Beck Technology. I'm responsible for operating our product side of our business, so that includes the Innovation Labs, along with our product development software, our technical support team, and our infrastructure teams.
Thanks, Mike. So first question is really for you, just what is Innovations Lab? How did it come about?
Yeah, so Innovations Lab is a different sort of creature in our company than other software companies. Most of the time in software, what you see is what they call a product side of the business. It's usually a bunch of guys who talk to people like you to understand what it is that you need and then try to turn that into tech speak so they can convey that to the engineers. I think the movie Office Space did a pretty good job of defining what that job looked like. But Innovations Lab, I know Eric hates it when I do that. Innovations Lab is actually something quite a bit different. What they do is, along with trying to help us scout out what our products need to be, they're out there way on the fringe as well. And so at Beck Technology, we really do believe in innovation. And we believe that although we know what the future looks like in the distance, there's 1,000 different ways to get to where we want to go. But the world shifts so often, and there's technologies like you've seen today with Join and Toggle that are coming up all the time, and we need to stay out on the forefront to make sure that we can capitalize on that and bring that to you. And what they do in Innovations Lab is they actually go out and test out all kinds of crazy ideas, implement new technologies, and really pave the way for our development teams. And so the thing that makes them different than what you might see in other software companies is they're trying stuff that might not make any sense sometimes. Things that you're like, how in the world could you possibly take this technology and connect it back into pre-construction? And that's half of their goal, is to figure out how they can do that. And I think that's honestly one of the coolest jobs we have, is to be a member of the Innovations Lab.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I definitely love going out there and finding, some of that cool technology and trying to find a way to make it work. And I think to add on to that, Stewart, where do you see the value, not just for Beck Tech, but for everybody out here? Where does that value lie? Where do you see that?
It's kind of funny, as I've been listening throughout the day, I've been trying to think of an equivalent, and you can almost think of Eric as our pre-construction department. He's trying to de-risk a potential project. He's trying to say, is it valid? If it is valid, what's the plan for executing on that project? If it isn't valid, let's figure it out as quick as humanly possible and pass. So the big benefit, I think, to Beck Tech is this ability to pick up these ideas that you have, explore them, and very rapidly, if they make sense, develop a plan on how would we implement it, what's the workflow look like, what's the user experience. But if it doesn't work, let's go in a different direction, which, again, I think it's almost like risk management. The last thing you want is for us to incubate a new idea, put put it in your hands, and lo and behold, it just doesn't work. So it is our attempt to de-risk all of the features that we plan on bringing to you. And in a perfect world, we would have as many of you participating in that experience to make sure it fits whatever your needs are.
So would it be fair to put it maybe in another way, that one of the things that we provide to our client base is that we're making sure that we're getting the right product out to them?
Very much so. Not just the right product, but products that fit your individual workflow, and I think that's the challenge with software. There is similarities with construction, right? We're building things just like you're building things. I think our challenge is, whereas you may have one owner, we have 3,000 owners, and we're getting direction and input from 3,000. So part of what Eric is really trying to do, and the team that he leads, is trying to make sure that we find a path that fits as many of the 3,000 as humanly possible.
Thank you. So this next question is really for both of y'all. Take it in whichever order that you want to. But what are some of the tangible benefits that we've seen over the past few years from Innovations Lab?
So I think there's a couple big pieces here that are kind of behind the scenes that I really love that comes out of Innovations Lab. One of them is that we stub our toe a whole bunch and we fail a lot. And one of my favorite quotes is, if you want to double the amount of innovation in a company, double the amount of failures. And the thing that I really love is that we can fail fast in Innovations Lab, so that when we get it to our productions team, they're not failing, and that they actually have a really good roadmap.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that 100%. I think another thing that I have really enjoyed is it gives us to have a conversation with you, our users, in a way that we wouldn't have otherwise. If it really is, here's an idea, now execute, I don't think we would have the time to explore and come up with the most creative, the best solution for as many people. So one of the things that I really like, and I know Eric spends a ton of time doing, is exploring. And there isn't a singular way of solving a problem. And it's spending the time and making sure that we get those conversations around, when you receive it, it really does solve your problems.
One more thing, too, before you get too far from that, Eric. One of the things that I really like is that we often go down a road and we think we know what the end of the road looks like. And along the way, what you can do in Innovations Lab is actually kind of detour. And most of the projects that Eric and his team end up undertaking do not end up where we think they're going to go. Even the ones that we're absolutely sure about, the ones that we think, oh, for sure, this is exactly how it's going to turn out. And I love that about Innovations Lab. It's one of the things that, like, in production and in software, you get that far down the road, you're sort of pot committed. So you're going to basically finish that up and then plan on a version 2 to clean it up. But with Innovations Lab, it really does take us into a whole new section that we never planned on before.
I thought it was interesting with Sam's presentation at lunchtime. I keep going back to the parallels between technology companies and construction companies. We have similar challenges. We have people that maybe have tons of experience and really good conceptual estimators. That's Eric and his team. They're really good at quickly understanding ideas and rapidly doing things. This gives us a career path for those types of people that can not just tackle a specific feature, but can look at the big picture. And it gives us a way of attracting and retaining the best talent. So we have a number of people that have been through our engineering departments that almost feel stifled. And this gives us an additional career path to really bring the best out of our people. So I really look at this as a huge way for us to bring the best and brightest to Beck Tech. It's just another tool in terms of recruiting and retention.
It's really interesting, as you draw the parallels back to the construction industry, especially something that we talk about with our teams internally, is that we truly believe that we can offer the most value by making the best decisions early on. But even though that we're creating software to do that, before Innovations Lab existed, we had no real way to make better decisions until we'd already built the product and put it out into the wild.
I think it's a great observation.
So then, to both of y'all again, what are some of the projects that these people may have seen in the product, or maybe not yet in the product, that y'all have really liked, or even ones that that have failed that'll never see the light of day?
Let me jump in. I think a number of people mentioned it already, but probably the one that's the closest that we've just released is automatic pricing. That was one, we've had the idea of trying to streamline estimating and quantification for a long time. While I'd love to own the idea, Landon McQuestion at Balfour Beatty was the brainchild. Worked directly with Eric, kind of came up with a prototype. We refined it with Landon, and then we circulated around a larger group. And sort of to Mike's point, the way that Landon specifically wanted it definitely wasn't the way that it ended. So that's probably the one that jumps out to me. And then one that they haven't seen, I'm stealing all your thunder, sorry. Eric's been playing around with some document management type functionality, and I'm old enough, I remember the old light tables, spinning the sheets to see what had changed between drawings. And there's a pretty interesting feature that Eric has developed that in essence gives you a slider, and when you bring the sheet over the top of the other sheet, you can see the differences. The eye is better in most cases than the computer, although Toggle may disagree. That's probably one of mine that you haven't seen yet.
I think one of mine that you and I share this one in common, Eric, is it's almost like what you've seen with Toggle and you will see later this afternoon. But Eric pioneered some stuff really early on with machine learning and neural networks that did object identification. So you've seen tech like this before, where you might say like, hey, show me all the electrical outlets in a building. But what he did that was different, and this is for all the kind of uber geeks in the room, is it wasn't, here's a picture, find this picture. It was like how Google is trained to find an image of a cat. What he did is he basically said, hey, I'm going to teach this machine how to learn anything. And then I'm going to feed it drawings, and every once in a while I'm going to point out that that happens to be an electrical outlet, or that's a piece of ductwork, or that's a bathroom. And that computer actually learned it. And I'm like, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. And the only reason why we haven't gotten that into the software is because we got to finish up our document management stuff. So I do think that there's so many cool projects that Innovation Labs does. They're looking right now at next generation reporting technology. I think if you're a diehard user of Estimator and Destiny products, you'd probably agree the reporting is a pain in the butt. And there's thank you. Yes. It's a pain. It's hard. It basically requires you to be a software engineer to get data out of that thing. And it shouldn't be. And so they're looking at next generation ways to be able to combine back-end data sources in a way that's intuitive so that you can do it yourself. And to me, it's those kind of projects that make the world a difference. But there's not one tool out there. And so, Mario, who's a member of Eric's team, who's spearheading that effort, he's looked through, 30 tools now?
24.
24? 24 different software technologies. I mean, not just like Power BI, but stuff you've never even heard of before. And to me, gosh, that's so freaking cool and it's so valuable. And I love it because you can see the need it's going to fill, and you can just watching that team work, the impact it's going to have on the people that we care about the most, which is you guys. So yeah, I love it. I love the projects come out of your group.
Yeah, and I'll just go ahead and tack on one on the end of that, just because it's pertinent for today, is that the initial Toggle integration went through Innovations Lab as well. That was something that we could bring in some cutting edge technology, and you hit the go button and you see the stuff pop up, and it got a real wow factor to it. So that one was one that I really enjoyed working on.
I was going to add a couple more. I mean, gosh, we could go on and on and on. This is like I'm drooling here about some of the things that they've been doing. A lot of our integrations start out in Innovations Labs. We mentioned Toggle, our integration with Procore, our BIM 360 all started in Innovations Lab. Again, he worked directly with a number of customers. Some of you are in this room. One that is coming is an integration between our bid day solution and a pre-qualification and bid solicitation solution. And the intent would be to unify the ecosystem. So you may use other tools. We want to integrate with those tools. But it's not all about our tech. But we very much believe that there is an ecosystem, and if we can integrate the ecosystem and the data is available wherever you touch it in that ecosystem, That brings efficiency, it brings certainty, and Eric's team is kind of leading our charge on all of those kind of ecosystem integration plays.
Great segue as well, because the next question is really about the future, about where we're going. So, Mike, maybe if you could talk about, where do you see this group going? How do you see it growing? And then, what projects are coming up? What's the at least current direction without us changing?
So what I think we're going to do is have like this tablet. I'm going to tie the term, turn it with maybe a digitizer, and you can use a mouse and set a real set of E-size drawings down and click physically on the. No, I'm just kidding. What? I was an estimator once. I had a digitizer. I actually thought that was the coolest thing in the world back then. But yeah, I'm glad we put those behind us. No, I think what we really want to see in the future is a whole pre-construction ecosystem and a pre-construction platform, and where I think the Innovations Lab is likely going to go. I mean, Brent threw down the gauntlet, but he kind of already knew we were looking at that place anyway, is things like automatic pricing for 3D models. We really want to help augment, thank you, Johnny, for that, augment, your ability to do your job. So there's going to be there will be some automation around, taking the information that is available at your fingertips and combining that to the document sets. But I also think there's going to be some deeper insights that we're going to be able to provide you. And one of the things that I'm most excited about is being able to show how the pre-construction teams are performing, being able to get insights as to how you're operating as a team, and being able to map communication from the start of the project all the way through. The Innovations Lab obviously has got deep roots inside of machine learning and AI. We've done some things called multidisciplinary design optimization in the past. That's still our future. We absolutely want to be able to allow computers to churn away on different designs, go through so many different possible options. I'm talking hundreds of trillions of possible options. We've done that before. We're going to do that again. Eric's actually got published papers. He's actually a world traveler at academic conferences. He doesn't look that old, although if you get close enough, he's actually got a lot of gray hair.
A lot more than I had when I started. Not as many as Stewart, though.
Well, I don't know. Let that keep falling off, and he'll catch up. But the future is so freaking exciting, and Innovations Lab is going to basically pave the way through integrations in tech. We talked about Toggle. You saw Join up here. There's Stewart alluded to a company which is Bespoke Metrics, and they have a product called Compass. Also integrations with products like Building Connected, Construction X Smart Bid, Procore, deeper integrations there. We want to make sure that your information flows seamlessly, and that any insights we can get from that information and deliver to you in a way that makes sense, we want to do that. And then we want to package that up in a way that makes it easy for you to show your customers. So at the highest level, that's the near term. You start looking way out in the mountaintops, I think what we're talking about is trying to automate that so that you don't have to do any of the heavy lifting, and instead you can be true pre-construction professionals. And that's really what our vision is to enable you to be able to have those conversations with the owner about what really matters, about real changes and their impact, without having to go back in and compute it. Have the computer do the computation.
Yeah, I'll maybe just build on that. I mean, I kind of said it in my opening remarks. I think the value of pre-construction is problem solving. And you look at largely what we do today, I mean, there's nothing more embarrassing than giving a recent grad a set of digital crayons and saying, go draw some areas. It's the kind of thing we did in elementary school. So I think, to Mike's point, removing as many of those low-value activities, vitally important, but low-value activities, and replacing those with high-value analysis and problem solving, and really moving the industry towards proactively trying to make the project better, as opposed to just what's the cost of the project. And then in terms of the ecosystem, I think it's making sure that it's not just a plan without execution. It's that plan gets communicated to the construction team, and it's executed as flawlessly as possible. So we very much believe, kind of where I started this morning, of a better world, and it starts right here, right in this room. And while it may feel a long way away, I really don't feel like it is. I think this world is accelerating And I think Precon is kind of the fulcrum of that change. And I get super excited about the work he's doing, the work you're doing, and connecting the two together.
So I'm going to throw a little bit of curveball on here because it wasn't on the original list, but you'd mentioned automatic pricing and the collaboration with Landon McQuestion from Balfour on there. You know, that really started with a single sentence, right? What if you just dip your pen in the costs? And I think it goes to show that there are a lot of good ideas out in our client base. How would our users get those good ideas to us?
I think there's a handful of different ways you have at your disposal, but we really value the relationship. So each and every one of you guys should be meeting with your customer success representative. If that name doesn't ring a bell, then that's a call to connect with Summer, who's been up on the stage all day. That person is going to be helping you understanding where you need to go in your business, where you want to go, and making that a reality. So that would be the first step. If you like talking to humans, that's where I'd go. If you don't like talking to humans, we've got a pretty cool online community. I mean, I heard a plug for Jan earlier. Jan is an absolute hero when it comes to our community. So we have a whole section there on ideas, and he is one of the best people who responds to those ideas and helps build them. That's also a great place. But honestly, call Eric. I mean, I think Eric is 100% open to talking to every single one of you. I think that's one of the things that makes our company different from other companies, is that you get a chance to talk to the guys who are doing the actual work. And they want to hear from you. You know, and not a day goes by that we don't have a software developer who probably never thought he'd be talking to a customer on the phone talking about pre-construction. And to me, that's the coolest thing. So I'd say those are probably my top three.
I'm going to add maybe one, which is, you know, I've obviously talked to a lot of you before you were customers, after your customers. I think one of the things that we always want to maintain, no matter how big we are, is that connection with our team. You know, I think we've said it before, we want your DNA on our product. And if it's, you know, you talk to Summer, you go in the community, you don't hear from us, Mike, myself, our leadership team, we want to share our cell phones with you. If you got a good idea, just tell us. You have our commitment that we're going to listen, we're going to try to understand it, and we're going to try and put that into practice.
I will amend Mike's statement. Emailing Eric is a lot more likely to get a response than calling Eric. Millennials. Well, any final thoughts from either of y'all?
No, I guess I'm going to be closing this thing out here in a little bit anyway, so maybe I'll leave my final thoughts for then.
All right. Well, then, with the last couple of minutes, I know we didn't have a Mentimeter running for this one. Are there any questions from any of y'all that we can answer?
Any ideas?
Not Brent.
Well, one thing I didn't say earlier that I should say, and seeing Melissa sitting there, is one of the big areas of interest to us. It's slightly connected to Innovations Lab, but we actually have a data group, is what we call the pre-construction data lifecycle, and that's really that trying to figure out a way of automating the round-tripping of the data. So that's going to be another big theme that you're going to see from us. It sort of segues into, if you can collect the data, you can create a new set of tools to leverage the data, and we want to provide that for everybody also.
I guess one thing I would like to add in the theme of providing value to you is there have been a handful of customers who have had interactions with Eric and his department who love the idea of creating their own innovations lab. And we've done this before, where we'll actually sit with your team, meet with your tech teams and those who are your visionaries, and help you design one and put the processes in place to be able to establish that in your organization. So we are really passionate about this idea, and we think, you know, outside of just pre-construction tech, there's so much opportunity for teams like Innovations Labs and all of your companies to solve so many big problems. So if you're ever interested, connect with us on that as well. We'd love to be able to help you set up teams like that in your organization. And then if we can get enough of those together, we can actually form a bit of a cohort where we can start to share some ideas on how you've been successful and how we've been successful, because I would love to see this idea grow.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mike, Stewart. That's it for us.
All right.
Thank you all.